Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. And if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
My name is Adeeb. I live in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada. I'm a professor in civil and environmental engineering. I'm the chair of the department. We've got one of the biggest civil and environmental engineering departments in North America with 70 professors. I also happen to be a co-founder of two startups. One is called BackScanner and the other one is called Maxim Calc.
So yeah, if you can talk about kind of like your background, like in those startups and what they do and just kind of how you got into these startups. And also while being a college professor, that's pretty impressive. And I'm sure that you're very busy. So what does that look like?
I always say I joined academia because I did not want to do anything with the business world. I love the business. I mean, I am impressed by all the business people, but there's always been, I was more impressed, maybe always looked up to professors. And I wanted to be one. And I remember when joining the University of Alberta in 2007, many years ago, they were always talking about innovation. And I was like, I know, I don't want to talk about innovation. I want to talk about, studying and classes and theoretical information and let the innovation happen outside the university. But I did doing research and over the years, one of the research that I was looking at was how to assess scoliosis, which is a condition of the bending of the back using surface topography. So we did a lot of research, and I was hoping that a commercial entity would take that on and innovate, and just it didn't happen. So what we ended up doing is actually create a startup based on the research that we did. So I guess I just spent a lot of time in doing the theoretical stuff, and then realized that no, I guess it's time to actually make it useful and take this and do something useful to the public.
Amazing. So in terms of the BackScanner startup, that's kind of like the one that we're going to focus more on today. So I'm curious more about that. Like, how did you get the idea for it, and what exactly does it do?
So I got the idea. I was doing research with a hospital where they were acquiring the scans, the surface scans, and they were trying to use that surface scan to understand how the spine, what is the geometry of the spine? What is an angle called the Cobb angle, which is a clinical measure. They were trying to understand how they're trying to see if we can use that surface to understand how the Cobb angle, or to infer what the Cobb angle is, rather than having to put those patients through X-ray. And there were a lot of things that were happening. Or there's a lot of people who tried other things, but what really worked for us was based on a concept that, because of my love of the theory, because I went and did a lot of math courses, I learned something about symmetry in the math, in very theoretical aspects of symmetry in math. And then I thought, okay, you know what? I know that theory, and the scoliosis is really about the symmetry of the spine so can we actually use the concept of symmetry to try and understand or to analyze the surface that we're getting, and the theoretical concepts that I studied in math, I was able to apply them, and then lo and behold, actually the method that we're using is so far is giving us the best outcome when it comes to try and predict what the clinical measure, which is the Cobb angle, is.
Awesome. So I guess, like, what does that look like, exactly? So if it's a doctor and a patient, like, can you just dive deeper into like the, user experience for somebody using this platform?
Yes, no, absolutely. So what this platform does is, right now we're at the kind of commercialization phase. We're reaching out to different clinics. And so what the clinic would do, they would bring the patient in, and instead of sending them to do an X-ray, what is expected is that they use an iPad with a sensor that captures the geometry, and they capture the geometry of the torso. They upload that geometry of the torso on the website or on our platform, and then from that geometry, you could notice we plot some very colorful images that kind of identify the areas that are caused or that reflect or represent the asymmetry of the back. And with some analysis using artificial intelligence and a lot of a priori like modeling that was done previously, then from that asymmetry we can kind of infer what the Cobb angle is. So the clinic would then understand what the Cobb angle is, and they can also monitor the patient over time. So they can see visit 1, visit 2, visit 3. So they can monitor the condition and see if it's progressing quickly or not, or if it's getting better. And in fact, one of our collaborators, we have a large set of international collaborators working with us. We've got a company in Brazil now that is actually commercializing it in Brazil on our behalf. We've got a few people in Spain and in Egypt, where I'm originally from. And what they're doing is the person in Egypt, what they're doing is that they're actually trying to correct the posture using some exercises. And so they're using our tool to show to the patient, look, just stand in a certain way. And then they take the image and show that how their posture has been adjusted.
Oh, wow. So essentially it helps get a better measurement of the way that their back is. And on top of that, it helps track it. So for the tracking portion, do they have to meet with this doctor every time to take new pictures, or what does that look like?
Right now, yes, but in the future it could happen. If you've got access to those sensors, you've got an iPad with the sensor that you probably could do it from home.
Okay.
The future is always going towards this telehealth, where you could do things online, and this technology is really would be very useful in this area. But we're still at the inception. We still want the clinician to be involved.
For sure. So I guess just from your perspective in building this, or what you've seen from early data, what are some of the best use cases? Is it more like somebody who has a bad car accident and has serious back trauma, or it may be somebody who over time just playing sports and
No, this scoliosis is actually it's called idiopathic. It's not. Okay. It just happens. I don't think that the scientists have identified who of the population gets it, and they get it at a younger age, and it's about 5% of the population. It happens actually 8 times more in girls than in boys. Yeah. And 30% of the patients actually require brace treatment. And so it's not trauma. It's really, it happens it happens in the adolescence.
Got it. So this platform is only for scoliosis patients. It's not something that could help somebody who has any other sorts of back issues.
No, it's just for scoliosis patients. And one of the issues is because of these patients are usually young, you don't want to be exposing them to a lot of X-rays, and you also want, if you can do monitoring very frequently, particularly because the parents are so concerned about their kids. They want to make sure, is it getting worse? Is it getting better? And this allows them to just, monitoring much faster, much, more frequent, and also provides them with measures that are more important to the patient, because the patient really does not really care about, the angle and if the spine is a little bit bent. They just really care about how they're looking. Yeah. And so that measure gives them, okay, are they looking better? When they adjust it, do they have a better back, or do they have a more straight back? So these measures are more relevant to what the patient is concerned about, and it's also allows more frequent monitoring.
For sure. And then on top of that, also, does it give guidance to the doctor about the brace, what type of brace they might need for future use?
So it could be used. We haven't used it yet, but it could be used for the design of the brace, because you already acquired the geometry, and the brace is based on the geometry of the torso. So based on the geometry, in the future, we would hope that the brace can also be designed to adjust, because from the geometry you know exactly where you want to push, and so the brace can be adjusted. But right now the clinicians usually have, the orthotists already have a procedure. They bring the patient, they know exactly what to do, they take some measurements, and they design the brace accordingly. But what this actually can be helpful is it can also monitor to see how effective the brace is.
Got it. So I guess I'm curious, right? Because it's a very, very niche product, right? And for you to go out and develop this product, was it some sort of personal story, maybe somebody that you knew that had scoliosis, or I guess what kind of made you want to get into helping solve this problem in this niche?
I think that there are two aspects of this. First is that, I really care about the applications of math and science for the benefit of society. And to me, the reason I'm doing this is because I really care about, the knowledge that I acquired over the years here, as a professor, and I really care about, transforming this knowledge into something that's useful to the public. I mean, it's, to do this startup, it's a lot of work, and I like, it's sure, I want to be. I'm not doing it to make money, basically.
Sure.
Yeah. Now the other thing is that my wife is also a professor, and we both do research in the same area, and so we're actually collaborating on this. So we're both very passionate about it, and it's really bringing it's kind of almost a family business now.
Right. So you and your wife essentially together saw, like, it wasn't really like it was more like a personal thing. It was more of just like from doing research, you were starting to see this gap in the market. Okay, like it's a huge problem. Let's try to figure out, a good solution to try and make things much more effective when it comes to patients and doctors in this space.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know when I started doing research on scoliosis, I think it's 2008 or 9. I remember a friend of mine came to me and she said, because she was talking to a clinician, the clinician said, yeah, we do research with Samer. And she's like, yeah, my son might have scoliosis. And she was so worried. Like, I remember how worried she is and how she was going to do anything, like, just
Sure.
tell me anything. And I think that's what we're trying to do is help, those individuals who they probably want more frequent. I mean, her son ended up being fine. Like, it was just a very minor.
Yeah.
But our platform would identify those minors, like, and it would tell them, just don't worry. It's like, it's relax. It's fine. So yeah.
It's awesome. So I'm always curious about this. Obviously, that now you're in the early stages. It's out testing in some markets. You mentioned Brazil, Spain, Egypt. What is your kind of goal for this year? Are you kind of more focused on getting it out to like the US market, Canadian market more? What are you kind of looking forward to in 25?
So really what we are doing in 2025 is finish by the end of 2025. I would like to have we'd like to have it the exact price set for this.
Right.
And the exact price for us, it's a balance between making it really affordable for everyone, because we want to reach Egypt. We want to reach all areas where they really need this type of treatment, or not treatment, this type of diagnosis. So we want to set the right price so that it's accessible to all, but it also self-sustaining, because we want to be able to maintain the people that we have right now. And if we can reach that level at the end of this year, then that'd be amazing.
So it's more of just like finding out how to lower the cost, continuing to test, right, getting more data. And then from there, the next year, like the year after, maybe then you'll kind of look at more, getting it out. So you could say like mass market across different countries.
Exactly.
And then when it comes to actually making this product, right, or making the software, what does that look like? Is that something that you've done locally in Canada? Have you found people, globally? Obviously, like you mentioned that, you're from Egypt. So what does that look like for you?
Start with students. I mean, we at the university, we have access to energy and talent. One of the co-founders is a former student of mine, is a computer engineering student. I met him during the pandemic because I needed, a computer engineering student. He was an undergrad at the time, trying to do certain things. So my wife and I, were trying to build this platform, and my student Weichin, we were talking about it and showing him the things that we want to do, and he's like, yeah, I can build something. And it started crude, and then we, the more he builds, the more we recognize, oh my God, it is there, it's out there. And so no, it was just really started from students, and I mean, they're no longer students because they graduated. They're still they're still involved, but now we have a former student. He's no longer a student. He's the first hire for BackScanner. He's a former student. We hired him the day he graduated from computer engineering, and he's the one who's in charge of the front end and the back end. So everything is done local, based on research that was done by former students and built by former students.
Amazing. So if you could go back in time to before you started this business, what is the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew?
The advice that my brother is a venture capitalist. So he gave me some advice, and I think this is the most important advice, is if you want a company to grow, you need to give it time. You need to give it invest your own time. You need to invest as much time. The more time you invest in it, the bigger it will grow. Maybe two advice. That's number one. Number two, you need the market pull. You should not be pushing a product that you think is good, but there is no pull. So you have to do a lot of interviewing, a lot of customer identification before you actually start the product. And we were very lucky when it comes to this, because based on our research, there's a lot of other people that recognized our research and reached out to us and said, can we use this? And so there was a little bit of market pull. And so these are the two advice that I give. You can't just, it's not going to happen on its own. You have to invest the time, and you really need to understand your customers.
Yeah, I mean, both those things are super valuable. I mean, I think that many people make the mistake of just starting something or building something without even just skipping that part of customer interviews. And it puts you in a really bad position, because many people build things. And that was like my last startup, and I learned that lesson the hard way. And I feel like, it's so important to interview people and have those conversations, because if you just build something without interviewing people, it's very difficult. It's like near impossible to really have any success.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out to you, do you mind sharing your website or social media, or I guess best ways to get in contact?
No, absolutely. Should I put it in the chat here?
You can share with me afterward, but if you can just tell us.
Of course. So you can reach me at my University of Alberta address, which is my last name at ualberta.ca. Also, I think there's contact us at info@backscanner.com as well.
And it's backscnr.com, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Dan.
Of course.